A democratic socialist walks into the Oval Office. The man behind the desk once called him a communist lunatic, threatened to cut off federal funding, suggested deporting him. The socialist called his host a fascist and a despot. Now they're smiling for the cameras, talking about affordability. This is not a joke. This is New York City in 2025. November 4th, 2025. Brooklyn. Zohran Mamdani takes the stage at 11:47 p.m. The crowd is already delirious. He quotes Eugene Debs, the socialist who ran for president from a prison cell, and promises the most ambitious agenda since LaGuardia. He's 34 years old, born in Uganda, raised in Queens. Until a year ago, he was a state assemblyman representing 125,000 people in Astoria. Now he will govern 8.4 million. First Muslim mayor, first South Asian mayor, youngest in a century. He beat Andrew Cuomo twice, in the June primary, then again in November when Cuomo ran as an independent. He outmaneuvered the real estate lobby, the business establishment, the democratic machine. He did it with TikTok, bus fare campaigns, and a message so simple it cut through everything else. New York is unaffordable. I will change that. The two cities. Here is what Mamdani inherits. A city where the GDP is $2 trillion, larger than most countries, where Wall Street bonus pools hit record highs, where luxury towers rise faster than the cranes can build them, and also 154,000 homeless students in public schools, 1 in 5 children living in poverty, rents that consume 50%, 60%, 70% of working class incomes, food pantry lines stretching around blocks in the richest city on earth, the 9th consecutive year with over 100,000 school children experiencing homelessness, not a crisis, a feature. Mamdani's platform is a direct challenge to this bifurcation. Free buses, universal childcare, city-run grocery stores, 200,000 new affordable housing units, a $30 minimum wage by 2030, rent freezes on stabilized apartments. The question is not whether New York needs these things. The question is who pays. The sword of Damocles. Hanging over every Mamdani promise is a 4-letter acronym, OBBBA. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Trump's signature reconciliation legislation signed July 4th, 2025. It slashes Medicaid funding, cuts SNAP food assistance, reduces federal support for education, housing, transportation. The numbers are staggering. $90 to $150 billion lost to New York State's Medicaid program over 10 years. 1.5 million New Yorkers projected to lose health insurance as the essential plan is gutted. $26.8 billion cumulative state budget deficit projected through 2029. $7.4 billion in federal funding that New York City's 2026 budget depends on. Every dollar now at risk. The comptroller's analysis is blunt. New York faces budget gaps of 8 to 10% of projected revenues in 2027 to 2029, levels not seen since the 2009 financial crisis. And that's before Trump decides to punish a city that elected a socialist. November 21st, 2025, the Oval Office. Mamdani requested the meeting. His team framed it as pragmatism. I will work with anyone to make life affordable for 8.5 million New Yorkers. Critics called it capitulation. Allies called it necessary. Everyone called it unprecedented. They met privately for 32 minutes, discussed affordability, energy prices, Con Edison rates. Mamdani took a photo next to FDR's portrait in the cabinet room. Then the cameras came in. What happened next surprised everyone. We agree on a lot more than I would have thought, Trump said. He called Mamdani a very rational person, said he wanted him to succeed, laughed off being called a fascist. When a reporter pressed Mamdani on whether he still considered Trump a fascist, the president interrupted. That's okay. You can just say yes. That's easier. They both laughed. The deal beneath the performance. Behind the smiles, the calculus is brutal. Trump controls the purse strings, Medicaid, housing vouchers, education grants, homeland security funding, the Gateway Tunnel. Every dollar flows through Washington, and Washington flows through Trump. Mamdani's entire agenda depends on federal cooperation. or at least federal indifference. Free buses cost money. Affordable housing requires federal tax credits. Universal childcare needs matching funds. You cannot build a social democratic city-state when the federal government is run by someone who called you bad news and threatened to send the National Guard. So Mamdani does what New York mayors have always done. He negotiates, he flatters, he finds common ground on energy prices while dodging questions about ICE raids. He plays the game, but the game has rules, and Trump makes the rules. The sanctuary question. New York has been a sanctuary city since 2014. Local police don't ask about immigration status. The NYPD doesn't cooperate with ICE raids. Undocumented residents can access city services without fear of deportation. For Trump, this is an abomination. For Mamdani, it's a red line. Border Czar Tom Homan made it clear, we're increasing enforcement presence in New York City because they're a sanctuary city. ICE operations are ramping up. Agents in subway stations. Raids at work sites. The message is explicit. Cooperate or face consequences. Mamdani's response is equally clear. New York will remain a city of immigrants, powered by immigrants and now led by an immigrant. This is the contradiction at the heart of Mamdani's strategy. He wants Trump's funding without Trump's agenda. He wants federal dollars for housing without federal agents in public schools. He wants cooperation without submission. Can it work? History suggests probably not. The leverage asymmetry. Here's what Trump can do without congressional approval. Freeze discretionary grants to cities that don't comply with immigration enforcement. Delay security clearances that mayors need for terror briefings. Redirect infrastructure funding. The Gateway Tunnel is already terminated per Trump. Increase ICE presence until the political cost becomes unbearable. Tweet constantly. Framing Mamdani as the enemy. Here's what Mamdani can do. Sue. Courts have blocked some funding freezes, not all. Rally, public opinion matters, but less than money. Compromise. On what? Which values are negotiable? The power imbalance is total. Trump controls roughly $10 billion in funds that flow to New York annually. Mamdani controls rhetoric. The third rail, Israel. If immigration is the obvious flashpoint, Israel is the hidden one. Mamdani has been one of the most vocal critics of Israel's Gaza policy in American politics. He's called the military campaign a genocide. He's questioned why American tax dollars fund it while 100,000 children are homeless in New York. He's faced accusations of anti-Semitism. Unfounded, he insists, but persistent. At the White House meeting, he raised it. Many New Yorkers want their tax dollars to go towards the benefit of New Yorkers, not towards what we see happening overseas. Trump's base includes Christian Zionists and pro-Israel hardliners. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, now running for governor, called Mamdani a jihadist. The real estate lobby that backed Cuomo has deep ties to pro-Israel donors. This isn't going away. Every time Gaza flares, every time a ceasefire collapses, every time the UN debates Palestine, Mamdani will be asked to choose between his convictions and his coalition, and Trump will be watching. The time bomb in the schools. While politicians negotiate, the crisis deepens where no one looks. 154,000 students in New York City public schools are homeless. That's 1 in 7. They sleep in shelters, in cars, on relatives' couches. They move constantly. Different schools, different boroughs, different lives. Research is unambiguous. Housing instability destroys educational outcomes. These children are less likely to graduate, less likely to attend college, more likely to experience trauma, addiction, incarceration. They are the future workforce, the future tax base, the future, and right now they're invisible. No one campaigns on child homelessness. No one holds rallies for kids sleeping in shelters. The crisis is too slow, too structural, too depressing for headlines. Mamdani talks about it more than any New York politician in memory. But talk doesn't build housing. Talk doesn't stop evictions. Talk doesn't feed children whose parents work 2 jobs and still can't afford rent. The clock is ticking. By the time these children are adults, the damage will be permanent. 2 futures. Mamdani's inauguration is January 1st, 2026. Within weeks, he must present a balanced budget for fiscal year 2027. The Adams administration left gaps of $6.5 to $8.4 billion per year. OBBB cuts are starting to bite. Federal grants are uncertain. Scenario 1, the deal works. Trump, satisfied by Mamdani's deference on style if not substance, doesn't weaponize funding.
Federal dollars flow. Mamdani delivers modest wins. A bus fare freeze, expanded childcare, a few thousand affordable units. He survives. New York muddles through. Scenario 2. The collision. Trump, frustrated by Mamdani's sanctuary policies or Israel criticism, follows through on threats. Federal funding freezes. Courts intervene but slowly. Mamdani is forced to choose between massive service cuts and political surrender. His coalition fractures. The progressive dream dies in a budget crisis. Scenario 3, the wild card. The economy crashes. Tariffs trigger recession. Wall Street bonuses evaporate. City tax revenue collapses. Suddenly, the $27 billion question becomes a $50 billion question, and no amount of deal-making can save anyone.
Epilogue. The portrait. In the cabinet room, Mamdani paused before a painting of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the man who built Social Security, public housing, the New Deal. He took a photograph. FDR governed through the Great Depression. He fought corporate power. He was called a traitor to his class. He also cut deals with segregationists, interned Japanese Americans, made compromises that haunt his legacy. The question for Mamdani is the same question every transformational leader faces. How much can you sacrifice to achieve something? At what point do the deals become the agenda? When does pragmatism become surrender? He doesn't know yet. None of us do. What we know is this: a democratic socialist is about to govern the largest city in America, dependent on a president who despises everything he believes. The funding is uncertain. The politics are impossible. The children are still homeless. And somewhere in New York tonight, someone is paying 70% of their income in rent, wondering if anything will ever change.